pause, breathe, ground yourself, and let your nervous system calm down. That is what pausing is all about. When we let our nervous system relax, our body understands that we are safe and we're able to think more clearly because this is how the brain is wired. When it believes we're under threat, the thinking part of the brain gets temporarily cut off, so all that energy can be used to fight or flee. So if you find that your heart is racing, you're having a hard time catching your breath, or you feel constricted, you're not going to be able to think clearly and make reasoned, rational decisions until you calm your nervous system. Hi, I'm Barb Nangle. I want to welcome you to my podcast, Fragmented to Whole, Life Lessons from 12-Step Recovery, where I help people heal their emotional, psychological, and spiritual wounds and make deep, lasting changes in their lives. I'm the founder and CEO of Higher Power Coaching and Consulting. I'm a boundaries coach who specializes in helping women who are focused on what others are thinking and doing and neglect themselves in the process. And I have coached hundreds of people on how to build healthy boundaries using my exclusive Build framework. On this podcast, I share my experience, strength, and hope from recovery. I don't support or endorse any particular 12-step recovery fellowship, and I don't claim to speak for any particular 12-step fellowship. I also don't believe that 12-step recovery is the only way to recover. You might need additional help. I'm an avid beachcomber who collects sea glass, shells, wood, and stones. I am a formerly closeted fan of the Hallmark Channel, especially the Christmas movies. Hello, Christmas in July. I wear fingerless gloves from September to June because my hands are always cold, so I have about 15 pairs. And I get a huge kick out of counting how many days, weeks, and months there are until my birthday or Christmas at completely random times of the year. My hope is that you'll find my words concretely helpful in improving your life, whether you're in recovery or not. If you like what you've heard on this episode, please screenshot it and share it on your social media and tag me at Higher Power Coaching. This is episode 269. If your life is a dumpster fire, try these 11 things to put it out. In this episode, I've categorized the most important tools, tips, and mindset shifts I've learned in my own recovery, that I've witnessed with my fellows in recovery, and that I teach my clients. If your life is a fucking dumpster fire, I recommend that you work really hard on all 11 of these things. If you don't have any idea where to start or how to start, I coach on every one of them, so please consider coaching with me. When I was doing this episode, I realized that I don't have time to go into a lot of detail about each of these because I have so much other material about many of them. So there are a ton of other episodes linked in the show notes, and I think this is the first time I've actually linked an article that I wrote in the show notes too. Anyway, here we go. 1, accept. Stop fighting against what is and stop getting mad when things don't turn out the way you want. If a situation doesn't turn out the way you want, rather than getting fucking pissed about it, be curious. Ask yourself, what can I do differently to make this come out differently? Or how can I think about this differently? If you need help with acceptance, which I needed massive help with and didn't know it, then listen to episode 2. That is definitely linked in the show notes. Number 2, set boundaries. I know it's not just as easy as saying, hey, I'm going to start setting boundaries now after a lifetime of not having them. This is why people hire a coach for boundaries like me. What this is essentially is you taking control over your life. I was astounded at how much more control I was able to have over my life than I thought I was. I had been waiting for other people to change or to read my mind or to do things my way without communicating any of that to them or changing my behavior in any way, changing the dynamics of my relationship with them. Even if I set boundaries, I didn't provide any consequence. Now, if you tell somebody, this is my boundary, and then they don't honor it, and you do nothing, that is, there's no consequence for them not honoring your boundary, then it wasn't really a boundary. Now, I have over 30 episodes about boundaries. I've lost track at this point in time. There's way too many for me to link them in the show notes. I'm sure you can find them if you scroll through the podcast app you're looking at. You're listening to. Number 3, turn things over to a higher power. If something has got you vexed, then stop trying to figure it out on your own and turn it over to your higher power. I know for me, I've learned that when I use the phrase, I'm going to figure it out, I'm screwed because I've never fucking figured anything out. So that's a time for me to hand things over to a higher power. Now, this is really interesting. Something was really bothering me recently, and I didn't talk to anybody about it, which is the opposite of what I'm recommending here on this episode, by the way. Now, I have this fellow in recovery that I talk to monthly for 30 minutes, and thank goodness we talked this past Friday, and I said to her, hey, there's this thing that I've been really annoyed and bothered about, and I haven't talked to anybody about it. Listen to what she said. How about if you pray about it, Barb? Like, holy shit, how many times a day do I tell people to do that? So I prayed about it, and then that night, an elegant solution came to mind. This thing had been bothering me for like 2 to 3 weeks, and suddenly an elegant solution came up after I prayed to God for help. So turn things over or seek the guidance of your higher power. I cannot say enough about this. What this means is stop trying to have all the answers yourself. Even if you don't believe in God, turn it over to something greater than you. Universe, nature, the power of evolution, entropy, the ocean, whatever it is. Something greater than you can come up with an answer that you can't come up with. 4, admit when you're wrong and say, I don't know, when you don't know something. I kind of felt like I was going to die when I knew that I was wrong, and I just didn't have the ego strength to admit it. But here's the thing. I absolutely love saying that I'm wrong. Okay, wait, no. Love, that's too strong. I do love saying I don't know when I don't know something. It feels very freeing to me because I felt pressured to know everything. When it comes to admitting I'm wrong, I do appreciate what happens after I admit that I'm wrong. There's a freedom and release that comes when I admit that I'm wrong and let go of my righteousness or my need to be right. It's not super easy for me to admit that I'm wrong, but it's infinitely easier than it used to be. And I really like the feeling of freedom I get after having admitted I was wrong. I also feel closer to the people I admit that I was wrong to once I've done it. That's probably why we have the popular saying, would you rather be right? Or would you rather be happy in recovery? Number 5, don't isolate, socialize. If your inclination is to stay home and eat ice cream and watch Netflix and do whatever other compulsive thing that you do the opposite. Socialize. Go out into the world, even if there's nobody nearby that you know. Go to a coffee shop. Just be around humans. We are meant to be connected to others. We're mammals and we're pack animals. So you have to connect with other humans. Ideally, it would be connecting with people you know, but even if that's not possible, go to a coffee shop, or better yet, go to a recovery meeting. We're protected when we're connected. We also say that the opposite of addiction is connection. I heard someone early on in my recovery say, I'm obsessive and compulsive in isolation. I heal in community. Go to a meeting. 6, stop judging yourself and others. Stop judging yourself for not being where you should be or doing whatever it is you think you should have done. And stop judging other people too. We are all doing the best we can. If self-judgment was going to get you where you wanted to be, you would already be there. And if you're judging other people, that's not going to make you lots of wonderful friends. For this one, I have an article that I wrote that's linked in the show notes. 7, let go of unrealistic expectations. This was gigantic for me. I had so many unrealistic expectations of myself, other people, the world, and it was a very long journey to get past this. It's probably still not over, truth be told. I think I probably have 6 or 7 episodes about overcoming unrealistic expectations, and those are linked in the show notes. So I'm not going to go into detail here about how to stop doing that. Sometimes we don't even realize that we have expectations until they're not met or until someone else points out to us that we have them. 8, get out of victim mentality. Yeah, sure. I can't just say get out of victim mentality and have you snap your fingers and be out of that mentality. It's so fucking insidious. I also have a ton of episodes about that linked in the show notes. And the reason I have so many is because I keep realizing, oh shit, here's some more victim mentality that I'm still in or that I'm just starting to see. You've probably heard me say this already. This is hands down the most incredible mindset shift of my recovery. I had no idea I was living in victim mentality, and it was such a surprise to find out that this was me. Now, I don't appear to be the typical person with victim mentality, and that might be the case with you too. I always felt like I had agency. I felt like a powerful woman. I felt like I had control over my life. Oh my God, no, none of that was true. 9, pause, breathe, ground yourself. Let your nervous system calm down. You've probably heard me say this a bunch of times too. Pause. That is my number one tool of recovery. What I'd like to expand that to now is pause, breathe, ground yourself, and let your nervous system calm down. That is what pausing is all about. When we let our nervous system relax, our body understands that we are safe and we're able to think more clearly because this is how the brain is wired. When it believes we're under threat, the thinking part of the brain gets temporarily cut off, so all that energy can be used to fight or flee. So if you find that your heart is racing, you're having a hard time catching your breath, or you feel constricted, you're not going to be able to think clearly and make reasoned, rational decisions until you calm your nervous system. It starts with pausing, breathing, and grounding yourself. I will also link my pause episode in the show notes. 10, reach out for help. Yeah, another one that was super hard for me to learn. And of course, I have an episode about that, and that's linked in the show notes. Again, we are mammals, pack animals, and we're meant to live in community. We're not meant to do things on our own. If you've never reached out for help, there are reasons for that. Typically, we either didn't get help when we were little, or maybe we were ridiculed for asking for help, or we were trained to believe that we didn't deserve help. Maybe we've become the helper, so the idea of asking for help just seems wrong. If any of these things are true for you, it's even more important for you than for the ordinary citizen to reach out for help because you fucking need it. 11, focus on the one thing you can control, you. This is about focusing on yourself. And when I do workshops and trainings about this, and I say focus on yourself rather than on people, places, and things outside of you, because you're the only thing you can control, it's common for someone to say, but I can't control myself. Now, this may be so in the moment or in particular situations, but you will never be able to control other people. But you can learn to control yourself. It's possible. I'm living proof. And I have seen unbelievable changes in people in recovery, in myself, and in my clients. If you don't learn to focus on yourself, you are never going to be able to control yourself. Makes sense, doesn't it? There are a number of ways you can learn to keep the focus on yourself. And guess what? I have an episode about that too. So this episode recaps many of the tools, tips, and mindset shifts I teach about because I wanted to put them all together in one because when your life is a fucking dumpster fire, it's an emergency and you need all tools on deck. This episode and all those linked in the show notes will get that dumpster fire put out so you can start to live the life you have always wanted to live and ultimately become happy, joyous, and free. If you need help getting started, you know where to find me. Barb@higherpowercc.com or DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn. I was recently reminded by a friend that when I first started recovery, I didn't feel lovable. I almost can't believe that I used to feel that way and that I kind of forgot something so profound because I truly love myself now. And I want that for everybody. If you don't love yourself, there's literally nothing that can make up for that. I created something exclusively for my private clients since many of them don't love themselves. And I've now opened up my private vault to share it with up to 10 people individually. It's called the Self-Love Sprint. You'll grow to love yourself and truly feel worthy so you can stop saying yes when you really want to say no. Stop neglecting yourself and putting everyone else first. Stop saying all kinds of nasty shit to yourself. That is not what people who love themselves and feel deserving do. You'll stop being afraid that others will think that you're selfish for taking time to care for yourself. This is also for you if you don't really know who you are because you've always been such a fucking chameleon. Go to higherpowercc.com/love sprint. Remember, I'm only offering 10 of these, so don't wait. If you like this podcast, and I'm guessing you did or you wouldn't still be listening, then you're gonna love the other things I have to offer. If you'd love pre-release podcast scripts and episodes before anyone else gets them, or if you'd love access to content from my private vault that I developed exclusively for my private clients, which is like having a work session with me without me actually being there, go to patreon.com/higherpowercoaching. There are 3 tiers ranging from as low as $4 up to $24 a month. You'll also love my weekly newsletter, Friday Fragments, which has content very similar to the podcast. You can check it out at fridayfragments.news. That's fridayfragments.news. Please like and subscribe to my podcast on your favorite podcast outlet. I'd also love it if you'd leave a review, which you can do either in the show notes or on Apple Podcasts. It really helps other people find my podcast so they can get the benefits you've gotten from listening. If someone came to mind when you listen to this particular episode, please share it with them. And my favorite place to hang out on social media is Instagram. I'm at Higher Power Coaching. Please DM me there. I'd love to hear what you got from this episode. I run group and private coaching programs on building healthy boundaries. Whether you need help with boundaries in your personal, professional, or romantic life, I can help. Head on over to barbchat.net, where you can hop onto my calendar for a free 30-minute Better Boundaries consultation. My ideal client is someone who is ripe for change. If that's you, I would love to work with you. My goal with all my work is to help you make lasting changes in your life like I've made deep, lasting changes in my life. Remember, it's never too late to recover. No one is beyond hope, and healing is possible. Thanks for listening.